What is up, YouTube? It's Ricky Walver, and welcome to my channel. You may notice something new about the motorcycle. I do have some 10-inch mini apes on the Indian Scout Bomber now. Purchased these a few months back and finally got it installed over the weekend. This isn't going to be a how-to, however, I do have some pretty important tips and recommendations for you. Things I wish I knew before I was installing my bars. I did a lot of things out of order. I did things that I didn't have to do. I recorded all this stuff. It's going to be a nightmare. These are FMB choppers brand. The cables go through the bars. So I'm going to do my best to kind of give you some tips that are helpful when doing this. For example, the Scout Bomber comes with the tracker bars, and I did not know right away that the harness wires are long enough to go up to 10-inch mini apes. So the harnesses are the same if you have the Scout Bomber regular or if you have the Scout Bomber 20 or the Rogue. So as long as you have 10-inch or lower, the harness wires should reach. There's a couple other things that you're gonna have to change in order to make them fit. The other is the clutch cable. I did purchase a Barnett clutch cable that is long enough for the 10-inch bars. I went to Barnett's website and I was able to choose the Scout Bomber and which model, and I chose them for the 20. So the 20 does include the 10-inch bars, so these came they were perfectly long enough for the Scout Bomber regular with adding on 10-inch bars. This is the new clutch cable. I used the old school method of taking a plastic sandwich bag. I put a zip tie around it. I sprayed some lubricant in there, just ran it all the way down until it came out to the other side. So it comes out down here. Sorry, the bike is dirty. Comes down through the back of the radiator guard, down at the bottom. I saved that from my old one. I put it back on. It was a pain in the butt to get it over the end, but I did get it on there. I did have to cut those, so those are new zip ties. That comes up over here and into, where is it? Up to there. The other thing I did is I bought the OEM brake line from Indian Motorcycles website, also for the 20 or the Rogue, and it does come in I think 2 or 3 different pieces. However, I only needed one, the part that goes from the brake reservoir down to underneath the seat. Now 2019 and newer, there's a little bit of a connection. I think it's called a turnbuckle, I'm not sure. So this is where the new brake line starts, right there at the banjo bolt, and it comes all the way down. It goes through the back of the nacelle. It comes down actually right there, up and underneath the tank, right about, where is it? Right there. See that? See that connector? That's where it disconnects. So we just unscrew that. I believe it's a 13 millimeter. It could be wrong, but that's where it attaches, and it should be good. You have to lift the tank up. You don't have to take it completely off. I was just able to take the connector underneath and the connector on the other side, and I was able to just kind of lean it a little bit, and I was able to get in there. That stuff was easy. That stuff was super, super easy. So let me tell you the part that was the worst. Now, to kind of get an idea, this took me 2 days. And a lot of that was trial and error, mostly with getting all the wires through the bars. So what I'm trying to do here is I wanted to do a full handlebar upgrade. I bought these bars, and I also have the Indian Scout heated grips, which you can see here, and the wires are there. They're not connected yet. I'll get to that in a minute. And I also got bar end indicators. This is a tight squeeze. All those wires through the bar was a pain in the ass, let me tell you, man. And the first few tries didn't work. There's a lot of trial and error. At first I was using electrical tape. That wasn't working. And then I found some other stuff that was working better, and I actually found it on some blog somewhere. But it said to use this stuff. I'll show a picture right here. And then that actually worked pretty well, using a fishing line to drop, like tying a nut to a fishing line, going through the bars and letting it fall out. That actually works really well. If I ever recommend anything at all in this whole process, is if you're going to run wires through bars, do that method first. So fishing line through, and then pull and then tie your fishing line to a shoestring, and then tie your shoestring to your wires, and then wrap it with that. It's almost like sports tape. So you kind of wrap it around there, and that was working. So the thing that I had so much trouble with, that took forever with so much trial and error, is that I was trying to get the wires from the heated grips and all the harness wires through the bars with the sleeve or cable management, whatever that comes with it. It was not happening. It just seems to be too thick. So I'm going to say straight up right now, I just don't think it's possible to get the wires through the bars. As you can see, I do have the wires zip tied to the bars right now. I didn't want it to be that way, but that's what I ended up doing. Something that I should mention about the bars themselves is they do come with the hole like underneath the switch cube for the switch cube wires to go up in here, through there, back down, and then they meet in the middle and come out. That's great. Now, something it didn't have, which I had to do myself, is it didn't have like a little groove or a hole for the switch cube to fit on. So inside the switch cube, there's like a little divot, and that has to sit in something and in order for it to not spin around. So you have to kind of figure where you want it to be and then drill a hole and have that little divot sit in there. But you have to find the right spot first and mark it, and then drill your hole. Now the hole doesn't have to go all the way through, it just has to go deep enough for that little divot to set. Now I kind of did this the hard way, the backwards way. I didn't discover all this until my wires were inside. So after my wires were inside, I discovered that, and I had to get a drill and then make a hole for that divot. And I was afraid I would go through and then drill into my wires, which would just drive me nuts. So I put a piece of tape on a drill to mark it that was thinner than the walls of the bars, and then I just drilled up to that point, and it didn't go all the way through. However, I did put something underneath it inside of the bars, so if I did accidentally go through, it would hit that first and not hit the wires. So keep that in mind. Something that you really can only do once, and if you get it wrong, you might be kind of screwed. So be aware of that. That is something that you're going to have to do with these bars. I think it is intentional. That way you can put these however you want, because if you want to have them like out or in, whatever, you want to have everything positioned with your thumb. So I guess it does make sense, but I did not know that when I got these. So the bar end indicators, they are not on right now. As you can see, maybe not, but there's a reason these did not end up on there. I may have shown you earlier that it had the bar end indicators. So I had this one on. I did this one first. That one was on there nice and tight. It fit pretty well. I was like, sweet. Went and I did these wires and everything second. And then I was putting the bar end indicator on, and I had two problems, and none was better than the other. So if I had the thing too tight, the throttle would stick. I would let go and it would not spring back. And then if I loosened it, then I couldn't get the mirror tight enough where it would just swing. So since I already had all the wires in there, everything was like in a row, like you had to loop the wire through. It's like 5 different things and then through the bars. So I had to loosen this, pull off what little slack there was, cut the wires in there, and then I put like a nut, and then I put another nut facing the other direction, and I was looking, I'm like, that's about the right space. So if I tighten everything up, then the bar end should be tight, and then this should spin freely, because this little washer, or whatever part this is right here that I was using before, it would turn with the bars, because this edge was pressed up against the edge of the bars, so it would spin with it. So if I had it too tight, or like 3 different things wrong, so it was like the mirror was spinning with the throttle, or it was spinning and not releasing, or it was too loose. There was no other way to do it. So I was getting everything all nice and snug. I realized, oh yes, nice, it fits. I had everything all connected again with the connectors in there, like the butt connectors. And I was getting the bar end indicators to, like it recommends, is have the logo facing up to the top. As I was doing that, I heard a snap, and the whole damn thing broke off. I'll show you a picture right here. So frustrating. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna have to cut my losses. I'm not gonna use those bar end indicators, at least not for now. Luckily, I still kept my other indicators there. it's going to be an easy connection. I still have the, this is the right one. I'm just going to splice it back together, put the old ones on, and just, I need to get to work tomorrow, man. If I try to get all the wires out and like do something, buy another one, wait for another one, it's going to take forever. So long story longer, I don't think it's a good idea to put the bar end indicators on the heated grips, just because there's really no sure way to get that to fit. Like, these fit fine. These are the stock bar end adapters. Like, this is fine. That's completely fine. I'd recommend that all day. So getting the wires through the bars, a lot of videos I saw said to take the connector off by de-pinning it and then pulling everything through. I looked at it and I'm like, these connectors are pretty long. It didn't seem like it was gonna go through the corners very well. In the very beginning, I actually de-pinned this thinking that I was gonna get all this through the bars, but when I was looking at it, I'm like, that's a lot to get through the corners, especially without messing them up. So I actually just ended up, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna cut it. I'm just gonna get the bare wires through, and then I'll worry about reconnecting them later. So I'm going to repin this right now, and then I'm going to connect this to the end of the wires coming out the bottom of the bars with some of these. These are like some soldering butt connectors that when you heat them up, the solder kind of go over the exposed wire. And I've never used these before, so crossing my fingers that it works well. Stick around and see if it works. One other thing, in case I didn't mention it, I did take a photo of how everything goes before I took it apart, so I'm gonna use that photo for reference. That's how I have it looped together, and then after this point I twist it, and then this piece goes over both of them, and you center this little solder piece over the middle, heat it with a heat gun, and then this stuff starts to melt and like infuses into the wires. All right. I got everything back together except for the brake line and the brake fluid. I'm just going to turn everything on, make sure everything is wired up correctly. I have the signal indicators back on. All these are wired back up. This technically doesn't need this to run. I'm going to do that later. I just want to make sure the essential stuff is working. I do have the clutch cable in, so I can put it in neutral in case it's not. I don't remember what gear I'm in, so I'm going to give it a shot. Here we go. Backlights are on. Dash is on. Signal. Okay. Got left signal. Right signal. We got left signal. Let's see, hazards. Yup. I always had low beam. I never had high beam. Went out a long time ago, actually. Horn. Okay. All right. Damn. So far, so good. Let me see. Primed up. All right. Damn. I think I got it. Holy shit. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right. Everything works. Hell yeah. All the wire management here is, if you can see, I covered it up already. If you noticed the earlier clip, it didn't have that. This is fine for now. However, they do make like a little cover here. I know Wunderkind is a company from Germany that sells them. However, they don't sell to the US. My buddy Bearded Bobber showed me that, and he got some for his. Maybe I'll show his picture here. And so you can get those somehow imported from Germany, or I was told the Indian Motorcycle has something that you can put as well. I think I've seen it. I just don't know if it's the right thing that I need. And then the other tip too is I have the nacelle here, so all the wires came out like kind of like a bird nest under here, and I think if I had just the headlight on some of the models, that would look like crap. So if you don't have the nacelle, I don't know if I would recommend this method, unless there's some other way to do it that I haven't thought of, because I didn't need to worry about it since I have the nacelle. So consider that if you have one of the Scout Bobbers that don't have the nacelle. So that's something to think about. As far as I can think of right now, hopefully I'm not forgetting anything, but I think those are pretty decent tips In case you didn't know any of those, hopefully it helps out. And if it did, hit the like button. However, I'm not done with this video. I did want to kind of go over how... what is that? Oh, it's a squirrel. Ooh. However, I did want to go over my review of the bars and how it feels. Now, I do have to say that it feels totally different. It feels like a whole new motorcycle. As you can imagine, the leverage is way different. So the old bars were like maybe like right there. So the leverage is different. It turned, I wouldn't say it was difficult to turn. It was normal to turn. This seems much easier to turn. It's like I did a couple of U-turns already, and I feel like it does the U-turns are a little tighter. It turns a little quicker. Like I'm kind of having to get like my muscle memory used to going around stuff and turning and all that. It does seem more nimble, I guess you could say. It's still, I mean, it's not too crazy. I'm pretty sure like in a day or two I'll be completely used to it again. One very, very, very positive thing about having the higher bars is that I can actually see in my mirrors now. If you guys are not new to the channel, you may have noticed like sometimes I'm like looking down like this to look in the mirrors, and it looks like I'm just kind of like bobbing around. I do not have to do that anymore. I can actually see who's coming up behind me when I'm still looking forward. Like this is in my peripheral, so I can see behind me at a stop sign, stop light, and changing lanes is much easier. And I feel like now that I'm upright, I can turn my head much easier. Because before you're almost like, I wouldn't say laying down, but you're like this, it's harder to look back. Like, you know, I can only see so much. When I'm right here, I can look back much further. So that is definitely an improvement. Don't really have too many cons, honestly. I will actually say one thing that's a con. This, to me, just looks more like a normal bike. I do like that the tracker bars do have a certain look to it that's kind of iconic to the Scott Bobber. I do think it looks better with the tracker bars. However, if we're doing mini apes, I do like the design of these. I do like how they're sharpened and not rounded like the OEM Indian motorcycle bars for like the 20 or the Rogue. I do like that they're sharpened. As you can see here, I'm kind of doing like a theme here. Like these mirrors are the high siders. Actually, a lot of people ask me what those are. So those are high siders. They got sharp edges to it. Sharp edges on these corners here. I didn't want to get like the like those Widowmaker ones, but I like the look of these for what they are. I just think that the standard tracker bars look better, which is why I kind of went with the standard Scout or Bobber to begin with instead of the 20. The other reason I didn't want to do the 20 is I didn't want to have to deal with spokes and tubes and stuff. Finally, this lane is moving. I can't imagine how far back it is at this point, because this goes right back into the freeway. What is going on, yo? Go, go, go! Ah, damn it. I thought I was getting out of here. Anyways, thanks for watching, you guys. Please do me a favor and like this video. There's been somebody that's been disliking all my videos within the first 24 hours. So do me a favor and cancel out that dislike if you don't mind. I'd really appreciate it. It helps the channel out. Anytime there's any kind of interaction, like a comment or something like that, it really does help out a lot. So if you wanted to ask a question or just say thanks or something, I will greatly appreciate that. So thanks a lot, you guys. I will catch you on the next one. Later.